Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to today's episode. I've got Josh Glover and Evan James in, and I would describe them as hunters, husbands, fathers, definite dog trainers, and wild game culinary ambassadors. How's that for a handle?
That's a bit much, but I'll take it.
You know, I've asked these guys in because I actually got out in the field with them and went hunting for what we call snowshoe hares. Some people call them varying hares. But rabbit hunting in Alberta is really an overlooked opportunity. There's not a lot of people do it, but I would call you guys hardcore bunny-thumpers.
I've been called many things by a few people, and I'll take that one as a good one.
Evan, give me a little bit of background of yourself, where you come from, a little bit of your hunter-gatherer instinct and all that.
Well, I grew up in a small community in Newfoundland.
Well, you'd never guess that.
No, I know, and it's funny because I think I have no accent, and everybody else is quick to point out that mine's more harsh than most Irish, so I apologise for that.
Oh, it's great.
But anyways, the small community I grew up in, 100 people. There wasn't much to do around there except get into trouble and rabbit hunt. I got into it because my next door neighbour, actually, he was more of a hunter than my father was. He was away more often, so I picked everything up from him from partridge hunting. And then we finally found a beagle and saw a salmon ear line that my cousin gave me, and she's like, "Here, see what this does."
Yep.
And I haven't turned back since. There's nothing more fun than listening to a dog give it what it's supposed to do. Like, it's one of the best things to do. You can do it with all your friends. Everybody has the same opportunity. It's just a blast.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Everyone might remember Josh Glover from season 1. We were in here talking about black bears and culinary treats is the best way to put it. What's changed in your life, Josh, besides getting a new dog?
Not too much changed. We haven't really stopped hunting, so there hasn't been too much ready to change. I'd just like to add, me and Evan, it's by sheer luck that we kind of met, and we'll get into a little bit of that later. But the reason, I have a beagle, and it was just by sheer luck that he hunted with beagles, growing up and stuff. So it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
You know, the real thing to talk about, you and I have discussed this, or you guys and I, Eastern mentality versus Western. Whether we go to Eastern provinces or Eastern states, rabbits and hares are huge. Like, some hunters, that's all they chase. The seasons are liberal, but in Alberta, there is really no season. We can hunt them year-round. There's no bag limits. But where they're popular, they're actually limited in terms of harvest and opportunity.
Yeah.
So many people in Alberta overlook it, and I'd say Western mentality. In the East, it's a food group in itself. In the West, there's a lot of myths and misperceptions about rabbits and hares. And in Alberta, we actually have cottontails on the prairie. They're the smallest of the 3 species we have. The jackrabbits, a lot of people see them in town, in agricultural fields. And then we have our snowshoe hares that are anywhere we have interspersed cover, parkland habitat, boreal, spruce, all the rest of it. But all of them provide great opportunity. But Western hunters just don't embrace rabbits and hares. And I think that those old myths that are around, that they have blisters or blight and that you can't eat them, I've never heard of anyone getting sick from eating a rabbit.
No, nor have I.
I just from research and seeing stuff online that I know they can have diseases and stuff, but that's like any animal, really. Sorry. As long as you're keeping an eye on the livers and the internal organs and stuff like that, it's fine. And it's very individualistic. It's in individual animals. It's not a whole population of animals.
Yeah, and you can run into that with anything. Every once in a while you shoot a duck or a goose that looks a little different or odd, and you might question whether, it's run into something and had an abscess or a wound or something. But in general, rabbits are good to eat. There's nothing to worry about.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And I mean, I know lots of people, most of them from Eastern Canada, that have come to Alberta that love the fact that nobody else is chasing snowshoe hares.
Absolutely.
It makes it so much easier for us. We really do.
Yeah, it's not like back home on the Rock where you guys would go out on a weekend and probably you would see other hunters.
Oh yes, well, like I said, I found my first dog out in that was 35 years ago.
Right.
Out on the side of Salmon Ear Line.
I mean,
that's where people lost them.
So much so that there's an organization that originated, I think it was originated in Eastern Canada, maybe Newfoundland, called Beagle Paws, that takes in hunting dogs and adopts them out to people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the point is people don't embrace rabbits here. We hunt waterfowl and partridge or rough grouse and all kinds of different things. And the season closes and everyone goes home and goes to sleep and closes the door, pulls the curtain shut and forgets about the extra opportunity we have. And after getting out with you and chasing some of the snowshoe hares with your dogs, it was rather exhilarating. Like you just want to go again.
That's what we like to hear.
Right. Yeah. So I have hunted them in the past, and I've hunted them on my own property here, but I've always done it with rimfire, where I sneak through the woods, take one or two steps at a time, and you try to flush the hare from their burrow or their hiding spot, their nest, whatever you want to call it, and then try to make a good headshot on them. And that's a good way to hunt too if you don't have a dog. There are different ways to do it. And I think everyone's been out in the fall hunting moose, deer, grouse, or other things and run into hares. So they're really not that hard to find. Do you have any advice for where to look for hares, or is it with a dog you just let's turn him loose and he's going to find them?
Well, funny thing is, let's jump back here a little bit. And I didn't grow up with beagles. Dash over there eating the bone right now. He's he was my first one. He's 12 now. So I was introduced to rabbits pretty young. I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and we always snared. My old man, he grew up snaring rabbits. He'd tell us stories of skipping school. They'd take a day and go and check their snares or set more snares, and they just completely skip off school for the day. So I grew up snaring rabbits pretty young, up until about 15 years ago, when my buddy he invited me out to his place at Flat Rock and said, you want to go out and hunt over beagles? And I said, well, I don't know. And it's kind of everybody's first inclination of hunting over beagles. Well, I don't want to shoot your dog. That's kind of what everybody thinks right off the get go. After he kind of explained it to me and we went out for the first time, I shot the only 2 rabbits we shot. So, the beginner's luck thing. But I had a blast. That was in the fall. I put out some feelers to try to find a dog, and had a dog in the house by January, I think, or February. And I never looked back. I mean, we still set snares and do the rimfire thing and just walk along, opportunistic rabbit hunting. But yeah, it's nothing like hunting over a dog.
It's like waterfowl hunters. Those that have dogs that they have as a companion to be in the field, they enjoy working the dog and seeing the dog react and have the experience as much as they do shooting the bird. Mm-hmm. And I can sense that with both of you. The dog is a big part of it. I know other fellas that come from Newfoundland and they love their annual moose hunt, but I think what they like more than moose is actually still snaring rabbits.
I say that's a fair statement, that one.
Yeah. Like I have a friend in Calgary that goes out, and he said they went out this year, and he said, oh man, it was glorious. We snared 70 hares, he said. And he just had this big glowing grin on his face. They shot a moose as well, but he didn't tell me about the moose. He was talking about the hares.
Yeah.
So in Alberta, you can snare. And I know that you set some snares because you're trying to get the next generation into the same lifestyle that you've embraced.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The kids had extended Christmas break, so right at the beginning when my little guy Logan, he's 6 now. Right as soon as he got out of school, I said, "Okay, Friday, let's go out. We're going to set some snares up behind our house, and we'll check it out, see if there's anything out there." I just wanted to get him excited about it. The first few days that we were going out, it was kind of it was a big thing for him. Like he didn't really want to go. It was cold and things like that. But after we got that first rabbit, it was game on then. Yeah, he was hauling his mom out. When I couldn't make it, he'd haul her out the trail and go check their snares and stuff. So
I was following you on Facebook, and it seemed like the trials and tribulations of the hare snarer. Had fun. I think the first one that was actually stole by a coyote, or was that the second one?
The second one. The first one we got the first night.
Right.
And I was like, well, I mean, you didn't even get to learn that you don't get them every day, So you got the first one, and then it was a few days after, coyote stole the next one, and then, I think we got 6 or 7 in total before we closed up the snares, but
right.
Yeah, enough to make some sausage anyway.
Nice. Yeah, and you actually kept the hides off those as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so actually last night I was going to start, I'll make a hat for him now, so he has something to keep from that. And then he helped me with the sausage and stuff too.
Interesting. So this is all new to Albertans, and anyone looking for information on hunting cottontails, jackrabbits, or hares can find some information on Harvest Your Own, because we're working hard to put together a library to get people interested and to embrace new opportunity.
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
Oh, I know where my next meal's coming from, and it's from a recipe that Evan shared with me for jarring hares. I did a couple of them after our trip, so we might have to have a snack at the end of the show here just to see if I did it correctly. How long have you been in Alberta?
I'm going on 22 years now.
22,
yeah.
So you're no longer a newfie, you're an Albertan.
I know, it's starting to get sad at this point in time.
So I'd like you to share some information. When you came out here, you didn't know Alberta at all. You didn't know where to start, where to look, whatever, but I'm guessing that shortly after you got here, you went hare hunting.
Yeah, that's right. I actually had a friend of mine. I didn't even know he lived out here. He lives in Fort Saskatchewan.
Yep.
And myself and him left it. We went to conservation trade school after high school, and we met out there. And I lost touch with him for 4 or 5 years. And I ended up in St. Albert, and lo and behold, ran into him. And he said, well, I got a property you should have a look at for deer hunting. There might be a few rabbits, because he knew I loved to rabbit hunt. Lo and behold, to me, being a bayman, or we have a different term for that back home I'm not going to use right now, and himself being from St. John's, I get a different term used. And he said, let's go rabbit hunting. So here I am walking around in the woods with a 12 gauge thinking this is going to be a lot of fun. And he was walking through, and I said, well, where's the dog? And that's when he said to me, well, you're it. So, needless to say, that was the first and last time I went rabbit hunting that way. And then I think next time I went after that, we went with a larger dog, and we just put bells on it, because the way I was always trained to run a beagle was always with a bell, just to keep, whenever the dog wasn't barking, it would keep the rabbit moving.
Right.
And that's something I passed along to Josh. He hadn't heard of it, because he used GPS, and I went hunting with him and himself with the GPS, and so he knew where the dog was. He was the only fellow shooting. So I said, well, let's even out the odds here, and let's try a bell next time and see who comes out next time with a few rabbits.
I was going to just mention that, because when we went out with the bell on, you can actually track the dog. And it's important to stand still, because rabbits are keen-eyed and sharp-witted and have big ears, and if they hear you, see you, or sense you, they're not going to come by you.
Not even close.
So you hear the dog coming, and you get in behind a tree and get ready and just freeze and watch for them. But I could see how it would be a definite advantage if you had the only tracking device for the dog and no audible signal to share with everyone.
It does put it in your favor.
I don't think that's completely accurate.
Yeah, no, the other thing we get from people when we do bring them out with the dog and the bell is that it's quite funny how the dog, when it's barking, to where you actually hear the bell, it seems like they're in 2 different spots.
Okay.
And I keep telling him, I said, well, if you hear the bell, he's within 30 yards.
Oh.
And most of the time, the rabbit is within 50 yards ahead of it. So if you hear the bell, be ready.
Right.
And it's worked out, and almost everybody we brought out has worked in their favor.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I went I was fortunate to shoot a couple hares, and that's exactly what happens. But they're keen; like they don't miss much. That one came around the corner and saw me, and he just froze. It was like, uh-oh. And if you weren't looking in that direction at that time, and being, aware of your surroundings, it'd be easy to miss it.
Yeah,
and obviously they can backtrack and double back on you because we saw them going out behind us over hills and out of the tree line and who knows where. They're escape artists.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, it was funny because when I went with Josh first time and with his young fella, he was we were trying to tell him that when you hear the dog or the bell, stop moving. Now to try to tell a young fella not to move, that's not one of the easiest tasks. And then anyway, so on the third time the rabbit came around on its circle, he finally stopped moving, and the rabbit almost ran over his shoes, and he was so excited to see it. He was like freaking out, and it was hilarious. That's the best part about hunting with other kids or even newcomers. It's just, no matter if you're 7 or how old was Dan? We just brought Dan. His first time rabbit hunting, 50, turning 50, and it's the same thing. Like the face lights up. Now he sees the big smile, and they can't believe they saw the rabbit, let alone get a shot. That's the best part.
If you have hunting in your blood and your background, and you go out and experience this with people that know what they're doing, you're kind of kicking yourself like, why haven't I been doing this most of my life?
Yeah.
Because it is a really fun experience. It's good exercise and all the rest of it. The main question I asked you when you came to Alberta and knew nothing, got out, there's lots of people listening to us right now. They're like, I don't have the first clue where to go. Where would you start when you're looking for hares? Snowshoe hares are probably the most common that people chase.
Look for green. Look for spruce trees. I think when you and I went out last April, it was a little bit tough, and we went to a few spots that had lots of poplar stands and stuff. You don't typically see a lot of rabbits. You'll see them around the edge, but if you do see spruce trees in that area, then you're almost guaranteed you're gonna see them kind of sitting under those last boughs that are on the bottom. You'll see the tracks. So thicker the better a lot of the time. And then look for birch trees because they love eating the young birch trees and stuff. Yep.
Interesting. I'm a newcomer to it, so I was really paying attention. I was watching carefully, and I noticed that the rabbits use very specific trails. The dogs would come through the center, and they would either go up and along the top trails or down the bottom. They're very evasive, and they knew where the dog was. And that one steep hillside that I shot one on, I was actually watching the rabbit avoid the dog and sit still and let it go by and all the rest of it. So you could actually push them without a dog.
You could, especially this year, where this year is definitely a bumper year. Myself and Josh will be talking about it. It's definitely the 7th year of the cycle. And when you do have an opportunity to hunt with a dog on a bumper year, and you get to actually watch the rabbit, or in this case, rabbits that it's pushing ahead, how those rabbits will work together to throw your dog off. That's the best part.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. Like the ones we saw were very evasive, and we pushed that long coulee on one of the conservation properties and got together at the top, and we're standing around talking, having a great old time, and got a water bottle out and, a refreshment and stuff, and all of a sudden your eyes grew as big as a hare, and you're like, there's one, and it was sitting beside us the whole time.
Yeah.
It had actually come out of the bush to avoid us and got into a little wee patch of Saskatoon bush that was maybe 2 meters wide.
Yeah.
And sat there tight, unnerved. Well, he eventually became unnerved.
He was nerved when that dog popped over the hill.
Yeah, the dog came and actually bumped him out from literally right beside us, and you couldn't even shoot at it. He disappeared so quick, and we were standing right between you and where the bunny was running. So they are pretty smart. They do pay attention, but after having walked through there, we had a pretty good idea where he was going to go, and it didn't take us long to track him down.
It took about 2 minutes after that.
Yeah. We keep learning that hard lesson, don't we, Evan? Trust your dog.
Right.
Watch the dog, keep an eye on the dog, and always trust your dog.
And that's true with almost any type of hunting. I think waterfowl hunters, I've been with lots of guys that you think the goose went down over here and their dog's running away over there, and you're like, he said, just trust the dog, watch him. And they sort it out. They know what's going on. Their senses are a lot keener than ours, so they do pay attention. You guys, this past weekend, did what you would call a gentleman's hunt. Isn't that what you call it, Josh?
Yeah. One of our friends kind of coined that term. I guess they do one every year for waterfowl. So I said, well, hey, let's do an old English style hare hunt. And we had planned it before Christmas, but because of the restrictions and such, we shut it down, and we finally got to do it on Saturday.
It was a little bit different because you were pushing long stretches of cover that weren't very wide. And I remember I was supposed to go and I didn't get out, but I remember you saying, oh, this is going to be fun. We know they're there. We're going to surround the place, and we're going to let them have it. It wasn't quite that easy.
No, it wasn't. We had the plan in place, trying to coordinate people, and that's basically what I was doing. I was handling the dog and trying to coordinate people, trying to put people where they needed to be. But staying ahead of these things is just sometimes it's absolutely impossible, and sometimes it worked out really well.
Yeah, you were telling me that you often saw them come out, and there wouldn't be one, but 2 or 3 of them, and they would double back or make a break for another, tract of habitat and just avoid everything.
Yeah, they really did not want to come out of those Carriganas, I can tell you that.
But it was interesting because you said, you watched 3 of them run across an opening to cover, but then another one tried to do the same thing, and I think you harvested that one.
Yeah, well, what it ended up happening was we were pushing 3, which we thought we had 1. I mean, we only have 1 dog, 1 bark, so we don't know how many rabbits are in there. So, at one point somebody yells out, "There's 3 of them," and then we pushed them all the way to the end of this row, and the guy at the end, the blocker, ended up getting them. So,
right. And the reason I bring that up is I guess it equates back to how you snare rabbits. You look for the tracks; they're very habitual in terms of what they do for escape and survival. And to me, as soon as you told me that about this gentleman's hunt and how the rabbits had their planned escape route, and 3 of them used it, and then the next one tried on the same, I'm like, I know where I want to be next time you guys do that gentleman hunt, because I bet you they do the exact same thing as long as you're not visible. You're the only person that could break that cycle for them and make them feel insecure in doing that. But, we noticed that the day we were out too. You shot a hare on the one trail ahead of Josh, and that's where I ended up shooting the one that came out of the Saskatoons, is on that exact same trail. So when we were pushing hares back and forth in the bush with the dog, and I got to watch from that slough on that steep hill, you could see they'd either use the bottom trails or the top, but I didn't see much movement in the middle. So it's interesting. As a new learning curve for me, I really paid attention to the animal itself, and they're not that hard to figure out, but watch the tracks. Where you see one, you're probably going to see another one. So little lessons like that make it a little bit quicker and easier to find success.
Yeah, one of the fundamental things we learned as kids when we're hunting rabbits is they circle. They have their routes. They have their what we always call runs.
Right.
Rabbit runs. And you walk a trail and you find a run. You put a snare on it. You might not get him that night, but you might get him the next night. Right? He's going to come back through there, and that's the same thing you're doing with hunting with dogs. You're just waiting for him to come back around.
Right. So, I mean, this is the perfect time of year to introduce yourself to rabbit hunting, because we got lots of fresh snow, and where you find tracks, they're there, where they live, and the trails that they prefer to run and live on. And I guess if you don't have a dog, you could pull the old Evan trick like your buddy pulled on you, and you could set up at the end of the bush and put somebody on those tracks and push through. And again, the shooter needs to stand still, but there's different ways to hunt them. And hopefully we can get some more information to share with listeners and readers, and share it on Harvest Your Own.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information to gain insight and knowledge. Head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information, from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game, to make the connection between health and food.
We will talk a little bit about dogs now. Both of you are dog enthusiasts, but you have 3 dogs between you?
Sure do, yeah. I have
4.
Oh, yes, right, yeah.
4 dogs.
Don't forget the star and the snan on the bone in the back.
Right. But none of them are the same breed.
No.
But they all work for hunting hares, rabbits, and upland.
So what I have a Italian Spinoni. It's a 2-year-old, and I have a 5-month-old, and they're classified as a versatile gun dog. So they are trained for your upland bird, but I'm also trying to train her for rabbit, obviously. And I hear there's a few raccoons kicking around these parts these days, so I'm actually going to try that, and fox. I'm kind of weary about the fox part, but they are supposed to be able to do to find those and help you hunt them down, which will be fun.
It would be certainly unique and different.
And that's what I'm looking forward to.
I was surprised your dog was very gentle and it's very calm, very owner-orientated. Like,
yes.
It didn't listen to anyone else but you, and it didn't, I could have pulled a stake out of my pocket and it would have followed you into the trees and ignored me. But used its nose, worked close to you. It put up rough grouse. It found hares, and it actually retrieved them as well.
Yeah, that was her first actual rabbit hunt. So out of that, we did get her first retrieve on a rabbit, which I have a picture of. So that's posted all over. Yeah, I can't use that term, but but it's posted everywhere. And yeah, she got on her first rabbit. Obviously, she don't bark. That's exactly what she's supposed to do. She would just push him 10, 15 feet, stop, point. Rabbit would run ahead. She'd run ahead, stop, point. And then if Trevor had to come through with his 12 gauge, he seems to find himself in the right place at the right time. But kind of got him on a scampering moment, and he missed. But it all worked out in the end.
Right. And Josh, we know you run a beagle.
Yep. The beagle, he's the one that kind of introduced me to upland, and evidently the reason why I got the pointing dog, the Brock Francais. And again, she's as well as a versatile hunting dog too. So. That's the reason why all fall me and Evan been trying to keep the dogs apart because everybody tells you shouldn't run young dogs together and all this. But the one hunt we did bring them all together with you, Brad, it was magical. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, your pointer, Zoe, pointed and retrieved her first rabbit.
Yeah.
Right? I remember you posting that on Facebook. It was a big event.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's a young dog.
Yep, she'll be 2 in March. Yeah.
Right, she's in the training stage, learning. Everything's new to her.
Yeah.
And did very well. And your beagle, we'd have to say we'd call him the old boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like to say his training was as much as opening a truck door. That's about as much training as he got.
Well, with the ears on him and a nose like that, just let him go.
Yeah. You find that out real soon. We ran that one property, and that one rabbit went around, like you were talking about earlier, around and around and around. And I knew that he was seeing one of us because we never got a glimpse of him, but the dog, we could see the dog, but not the hare. And he just kept working it. Once they're on him, they never give up. Like, I was surprised.
No, they will run till they drop. Beagles will run themselves to death. That is one of their problems.
Right.
They have one track mind. When they're on it, that's it. There's no stopping him in front of traffic or anything else. He's going until the shot's fired.
Well, and there was a few times, I don't know if we had to do it with you, but this weekend there was a few times the guys would go and pick the rabbit up right away and put it in their bag. And I said, no, go put it back on the trail, and he's got to find it. He's got to find the dead one. Yeah.
It's got to finish for him.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Yeah. And what does he do when he finds the carcass?
Sometimes he'll pick it up, but he'll chew it up. He'll maul it, but he don't retrieve. You can train him to retrieve. I never did, of course, but some people do train him to retrieve as well.
I guess my point is, it doesn't matter what you have for dogs. Rabbits are going to run if there's a dog behind them. They're going to run circles and get them out and have fun. See what they do.
Yeah,
they don't need to be at your feet. It's the rabbits are going to want to get back to where they were, to their preferred habitats. And try to always post someone in a good shooting position, even if the rabbits are far ahead. Just little things that I learned, and I know nothing about hare hunting.
Main thing is, don't chase the dog.
Right.
He'll always come back to you.
And you're never going to keep up with him.
Never going to keep up.
Yeah,
no.
He's going to wear you out big time. One question I know we're going to get, and I was a bit surprised, because I was always told, don't shoot hares with a shotgun, because all the pellets pull all that fine hair into the meat, and they're a pain to clean up and all the rest of it. What's your advice?
Aim for the head and hope for the best.
I'd have to agree with you, because I was using a shotgun with the ones I shot, and they cleaned up really easy. I mean, there are shot holes in them like you find in a duck or a goose, but you rinse them and wash them, and we ate them 3 different ways, and they were wonderful.
Yeah, well, most people don't eat the heads up here, right? You can. The older crowd back home,
definitely.
They're that's one of the things thereafter. Like I had my grandmother, she wouldn't want any other part of the rabbit but the head.
Right. I've
Myself,
heard that a lot.
I couldn't get into that. To each their own. Yeah. But when you shoot a rabbit, all you're basically after is back straps and legs. Hind legs mostly, so anywhere up past that.
The other thing that really surprised me, a snowshoe hare, varying hare, doesn't look that big. But there's a lot of meat on a rabbit.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, like it's a worthwhile endeavor. It's a meal.
It is. Yeah, it is. I remember like my first dog I had out here in Alberta. She was I used to call her is a pocket beagle. So she was 9 inches high to the shoulder. That's a small rabbit. And when I first brought her out to the properties that I still hunt, this is 20 years later. When I first met that farmer, first thing he said is that, "Sure, man, the rabbit will eat your dog. He's twice the size," and they are twice the size. So. And we used to make soup off them all the time. Like that's one thing that I love is there's nothing, and bar none, nothing makes better gravy than rabbit. You can't beat it.
I've heard that a lot. I haven't made gravy out of them yet, but it's definitely on my to-do list.
Oh, I'd move it up a few and get to it quicker.
Josh, what do you tend to use when you're shooting?
12 gauge.
And get a big pattern because we all miss, and it's easy to miss when they're on the move. And put the odds in your favor.
Yeah, ounce and eighth shot, number 6, 7. You can throw a handful of sand at them sometimes and knock them over. So
okay, Evan, you were saying every once in a while you like to take out your 410.
So it'll all depend on where I'm going. So we have a place that we currently still hunt. That's the place I've been hunting for over 20 years for rabbit, and I will bring a 410 and a 20 gauge to that property. Depending on what side of the path they're on, it will give you your 410 is more than enough.
Right.
Now we have broadened our hunting area in the same area, and now that we're into that new area, you don't have a chance with a 410 or 20 gauge. You got to shoot 12 because you're shooting. Well, Josh, you shot that last one a week ago at what 56 yards?
Yeah, 55, 56 yards.
56 yards,
and it was probably moving.
Oh yeah, it was moving.
Yeah. And like I said, they hit those open patches and they're moving.
They're moving.
Yeah, and that's the most fun. You see they see you because their ears fold right back and they start booking, and then.
I still am amazed at how keen their senses are. But when you stop to think about it, every hawk, owl, coyote, fox, like everything's after them. You better be sharp-witted or you're not going to be around.
That's right.
Yeah. It's good to know that there's a variety of equipment you can use because, if you've got a kid that wants to get into hunting and you didn't get a chance to get him out last fall or something, get him out. You can use a 410. You can still be successful. 20 gauge.
22,
22, especially if you're doing a still hunt or a spot and stock type thing. It'd be pretty tough on the move, but it could happen.
Yeah. They stop sometimes.
I've done it, but I had to put a barrel. You had to use the banana clip in order to get it. I felt like Al Capone when I was shooting at it, but I did get him.
Yeah, and if people really wanted to get out just to catch some rabbits and try them, snaring's also a good way to find rabbit woods, tracks, and just get acquainted with the creature itself. We better talk about food a little bit here. We'll start with the lesson in cleaning. A little bit intimidating. I always thought you needed to have a knife and get right in there like you were doing a deer, but we shot some hares, and Evan said, "Oh, here, let me give you a quick lesson." And I think it was about, if I timed it, maybe 42 seconds, and it was done.
Yeah, I have a tendency to turn people off on what I do, and I'm probably not the best person to learn from. But if you ever need to clean a rabbit quick, yeah, I've been taught a few ways, and that's the fastest way to do it, especially when you're dealing with, what was it that last week in minus 18, minus 19, we had to clean 6 rabbits.
Yep.
42 seconds is as long as you want to keep your hands there. So,
right. But they're I would compare them to a grouse or a pheasant. They have very light skin. And you held them up by the hind legs, grabbed hard into the back leg skin, and just pulled like you would on a grouse breast, and the skin pulled off. You stuck your finger into the tail, popped it off on the abdomen, and then straight down over the front legs and right to the ears, basically.
Right to the ears and twist the head.
Twist the head off. It came and went back to the belly and just sort of ran a fingernail up and down it about 3 times and opened up, and you reached in, zingo, it was done. You threw them in the snow, had them all washed up, cooled down, and You know, it's either ready to go home or let's go find another one.
Well, I don't like to waste much time when you're rabbit hunting. You only really have 5 or 6 hours to get a few rabbits. So
Exactly. My point is, like, it was so simple that I actually videotaped you, and it's not the prettiest video, but it really shows how simple it is to clean them up and do them in the field and take home, a prepared animal that is ready to wash up and cook right away.
Yeah,
very simple.
Well, you can actually do the same thing. I don't know if people have seen the tricks online with the scissors and the squirrels. You just make a slit down the back and just take the two sides and pull it back down over and over and up over kind of thing. I've done that with them as well. If you're in the field, it's quick.
Yeah, I know one thing. I'm never using a knife on them again, because that's when you do get all that little fine hair on them.
Yeah.
You know, when you rip the skin off like you do on a grouse, it was like super simple, clean, and efficient. And it took zero time.
Yeah, we always said taking their sweater off.
That's right. And see that's how I was taught. Because when I was taught by my grandfather and my father when we used to went snaring, is that when you're a kid, so I was 10 or 11 years old, your hands would get cold. Dad was like, "I'll warm your hands up, catch a rabbit, peel them that way," and basically you'd hold on to the head inside and you just pull
the fur backwards over your hand.
And now you got a fur mitt, and then the next rabbit you catch, you peel it the other way and put it over top. So now you can wipe your nose if you had to, right? I wouldn't say you'd want to, because there's a lot of small hairs there, but you could.
Yeah, creative thinking. Absolutely. You get points for that. When we were out there, and my friend in Calgary as well, they all said, "Oh, canned hare. Like canned hare with a chunk of salt pork or pork belly, or real fatty bacon put in the jar when you can it is like to die for." That's very Newfoundland.
Never forget the onions.
Oh, okay.
Like Father would say, make sure you got a large onion in there.
In the jar or raw separately? Because when I was talking to Josh, I gathered that you would cut raw onions on the side. I didn't put them in the jar, so I might have been one step short.
Yeah, I would put them in the jar. I'd have to get back to, I'll talk to the old man. We'll give him a call and see what it's been a few years since he's done it too. So, but anything that my old man did is fat pork and an onion. You can't go wrong.
What I was amazed with, I did two of them up. One hare will fill a quart sealer, do it up very nicely. Left the leg bones in and did the whole back, basically put it in. And when I took the hair out of the canner and it set up the next day when I came and looked, all of the meat is encapsulated in gelatin. It's not a broth. It's jelly. Like when you get a canned ham or canned chicken, it is, it's a very unique product.
Yep.
So it's the best part.
It is. Well, you were telling me that. The best way to eat canned hare or jarred hare is a piece of bread and some butter and dig in.
Yep.
So when we're done here, I'm actually going to open a jar just to see if I even came close to getting it right, because it sure looks good.
So did you, I'll ask you, did you do the ribs too?
I did some of the ribs in the jar. Yep.
Okay. So that's usually what I used to do with them, is just cut them in half so you have the nice back piece.
Right.
Then you have the back piece with the ribs on it. You tuck that down into your jar and put everything else inside the ribs into the jar.
Right.
So then you can pick at those ribs too.
Yeah, and it all just fits. I think if you got a real big buck bunny, it would have trouble with the hind legs. They might be a little bit too long, but you could always trim them down. I had another fella that I know on Facebook that shared a recipe for popcorn rabbit, like popcorn chicken, and I did those up. And like, I was amazed. Our girls ate 1.5 rabbits for dinner. Like, no problem. So we definitely be doing that again. And yesterday I stole your idea. I actually made some savory waffles out of carrots and sweet potatoes and fresh herbs, and did a crispy battered rabbit over waffles, and it was superb. Like,
nice.
There's, all of a sudden there's just not enough rabbits in the freezer.
Yeah. Let's go.
What are some of
Who
your...
would have thunk, right?
Who would have thunk it is right. What's your favorite recipe, or a couple of them?
Well, I made a really nice apple cider sausage this week. Logan was after me to make some sausage out of the rabbits that we caught, so that's what I did. I had 7 rabbits, I think. I had 6 pounds of lean meat, and then I cut it with some bacon ends, some apple cider and some herbs and stuff like that, and it was really good. But the favorite is probably stew with a pastry on top. I mean, that's classic. You got to have that at least once or twice during the season, right?
I hear that a lot from people in New Brunswick, rabbit pie, and you have to have summer savory. Yeah. So savory, most people in North America buy savory, but in the East you buy summer savory, and it does have a very different flavor and taste. Most Newfoundlanders and Easterners I know, they can tell when you're cooking a proper stew or rabbit pie because they can smell the summer savory.
Three ingredients: salt, pepper, savory.
Yeah,
yeah. If you had a group of fellows going into the woods for the week, hunting rabbits, there's probably a pack of savory going in with them.
Well, there you go. A lot of people say too that some rabbits can be stringy or tough, and I've experienced that with jackrabbits. Not so much with the snowshoe hares that I had, but braising and stewing them just becomes a natural way to break them down and make them more than palatable. It's very tender, fall off the bone. Delicious. And then of course you do get that broth that you make your gravy with. And after seeing that gelatin in the jars that I canned them in, I understand why the gravy might be so good.
Oh, yeah. It's the only way to go. I'm getting hungry already.
Before we close, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners in terms of pointing them in the right direction or encouraging them to get out and experience some of what Alberta or Western Canada has to offer for any type of rabbit or hares?
I don't know. I think it's probably the most, if not, probably the most underrated game animal out there. It's not even considered a game animal. Some people, it's rodents. And they're so easy to get. Snare. You can walk. You can have a dog. It's it doesn't have to be a beagle. It doesn't have to be a hunting dog. Just something to go through and push the bush for you.
Yeah, I was going to question your statement there, because when you say they're so easy to get, I was going to say,
I've seen you shoot.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll say it.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Evan, any advice?
No, just get out there, have fun. It's all about just getting out and introducing new people or kids to the quarry, and it's as soon as you do it, you won't turn back.
Right. Well, I'll just remind everyone that last March when COVID started, hunting and fishing were declared an essential service in Alberta, which means you can still get together and go hunting. You might have to take different vehicles. So get together with some friends and family, get out there and experience it. There is no set season for rabbits and hares in Alberta. It's open 24 or 12 months of the year. You can hunt them 7 days a week. There's no bag limits. I know yourself, you do set limits in terms of what seasons you go after them.
Yeah, we kind of go by the East Coast season for the most. I mean, you let them populate back up and stuff. So anytime after April, we usually shut it down.
Yeah, when the snow starts to disappear, it's time to close it down.
Yeah.
And they're probably a little more vulnerable then too if they're still white and the forest is brown. But
yeah, vulnerable is a word for it.
you got to play your advantages.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But you got to think about the other animals too, right? The birds are all trying to breed and they have their nests and stuff. So you don't want to be in there tromping around. And
that's why I bring it up. It's about common sense and respect for everything that's out there. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I'd like to thank both of you for coming in and for taking me out and experiencing Alberta snowshoe hares. I think we're going to go for a little run this afternoon.
Try, yeah.
And I do have some jarred hare for us to try just to see if I did come close on the recipe.
I'll let you know.
All right. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for joining us on Harvest Your Own.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.